You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. Members of CBRE, the leading real estate broker in Cambodia, held meetings to discuss the future of real estate in Cambodia, the challenges the market currently faces, and how to address them. Led by Chairman Mark Townsend, the discussions reflected on CBRE's 15 years on the Cambodian real estate scene and noted the rapid development of properties in the country and how developers need to rethink their strategies in order to survive an oversaturated market. Cambodian developers are facing a crisis of supply and demand, with every city in the world experiencing an oversupply of office space. CBRE Managing Director Lawrence Lennon noted the drastic decline in occupancy rates for the company's office buildings.
Today, we're looking at around 1 million square meters of office space. 2019, we had 90% occupancy on average. Today, it's around 58%.
Chairman Mark Townsend believes this is a case of developers getting caught up in the initial boom of large properties that took place pre-COVID and expecting the same returns without adjusting to the current situation.
Well, I mean, a lot of it is to do with rents, and certainly in relatively mediocre office buildings, the landlords were able to get a very high rent, as they were developers for residential condominiums, where the rent per square, the capital value, the price per square meter was as high as Bangkok. And in many cases, I remember 2019, 2018, higher than Vietnam, where the affordability is greater, the urbanization is stronger, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it did get ahead of itself.
He also noted the need for more modern design.
You go to an office building, an office in Phnom Penh, and it's still, the design and layout is still something from the 70s and 80s. It's not, if you go to somewhere in Singapore or Hong Kong, it's very collaborative. And I think people will start to realize that if you want to get young people to come and work hard for you every day, you're going to have to design the space a very differently, with breakout space, with more space per worker, per employee, a bigger canteen area.
Townsend notes that COVID, the return to work, the credit crunch, and the war in Ukraine have all compounded to create a real estate market that has changed direction and is in desperate need of an overhaul in terms of how building managers build, use, and design their properties. Lawrence Lennon warned that anyone still operating on a 2019 playbook is likely to be left behind because the cycle has been altered. The company promotes a circular strategy of refill, repurpose, re-energize, reposition, and reuse for existing buildings to discourage the unwise and harmful practice of constantly knocking down buildings to build anew.
Don't tear something down until you're absolutely sure. Don't build anything until you realize, particularly in the retail sector, retail trends are changing all the time. The design, what the purpose for which they're used for, the types of tenants gets bigger, gets smaller. And we've seen this so much in the West.
CBRE praised the factory in Phnom Penh as an excellent example of repurpose after developers turned a derelict Levi factory into a mixed-use creative hub used by the community, new businesses, and emerging artists. When developers do choose to build anew, Townsend stressed the need for them to think about long-term use of their building. With consumer trends and business models shifting all the time, developers should be thinking ahead to how their building could be used beyond its immediate purpose.
There is a huge responsibility now with the ESG, with global warming, to make sure when you build something, you've got to build it for a purpose that could change.
The company notes affordability, demographics, urbanization, infrastructure, and lack of transparency as main drivers for real estate. Townsend also spoke on the obstacles standing in the way for major investors in Cambodia, especially when it comes to the lack of regulation and transparency. His company's inability to provide vital information such as zoning or height restrictions on properties, which vary widely and often without logic, has created a real challenge for large institutional investors. Having worked in Vietnam for 20 years, Townsend witnessed the shift that happened for the country when Samsung became a major investor. He noted that Vietnam went from primarily producing shoes and garments to becoming a tech hub. He said that it created a dramatic shift in the Vietnamese people, who who started to see more potential in what kind of work they could do in the tech field.
90% local.
Townsend hopes for the same shift for Cambodians and noted that while Cambodia does have some catching up to do, it is already ahead in terms of infrastructure development, which signals to investors that the country is serious about its economic development. However, it does remain unclear which road the kingdom will take in the near future to further its economic vision of becoming a high-income country by 2050.
2019 we had 90%
Kristen Winters, EAC News.
Another